Welcome to another Fountain Pen Day review. Today's review is going to be of the new TWSBI notebooks that are out. This one was acquired when I got my TWSBI micarta. You can see the TWSBI micarta review, and you'll see this notebook in it. This cutout here, actually, was where the pen was sitting when it arrived. And people had asked, how is the notebook? So this is going to be a review of the notebook that I received. I can only, of course, assume that this is the same notebook that you would get, without the cutout, of course, if you ordered just a plain notebook. It does have the logo embossed right here on a leatherette color. I'm assuming it's vinyl, not real leather. Side shot, you can see that the way it's sandwiched, that the back part is a thicker cardboard than the front, where this vinyl is adhered to. I'm getting a little more glare than I wanted. The strap, we'll do the strap first. Sorry, I should have done that. It's done with eyelets to keep it attached. And it's nice. It does keep the book closed. It's not overly tight at all, but it does keep it closed. And it just comes right off, opens up, and I'll show you the back. You can see how the eyelets would go through the back of this. Being that the back of the book is thicker, I'm sure it's not going to come out anytime soon, and the back is much stiffer than the front. You can see it doesn't want to bend much, which is nice. It gives it a good solid feel, whereas the front, you can see, is much thinner and much more supple. It'll bend much easier. Fit and finish on the book, very nice. For a journal, it's great. This is a good size. This one measures, sorry, I meant to write it down, 7.5 long and 6 1/4 wide. So as you're looking at it, it's 7.5 by 6 1/4. Rounded edges, which is nice. I was doodling and fooling around, so there's a lot of bleed through. I also closed the book when it was still wet on this, so this is not going to be, I guess this would be indicative of daily use if you were going to screw around with it like I was, because you can see from here, when I was just messing around to see how the ink would, I closed it and I got it on the back side. You can also see from when I did the last review that there was some bleed through, there's some shadowing. And here again I closed it. But I'm going to do swab tests on this so that you can see how it actually holds up. This is what I'm going to title. Here's some Baystate Blue. I'm going to just title this one the torture test of the TWSBI notebook, because basically that's what I'm going to do, is torture it. One thing I noticed, and I read somebody else's comment, so I'll try it here. When you fold this back, and do remember that this cutout, since it's not going to be there, I mean, this does weaken this book a little bit, and causes more issues than you normally would have. I'm doing this out of order, I'm sorry. I've never done a review on a notebook before like this, so forgive it being out of order. It is graphed paper, and it's perforated along this edge. So I'll crease it here, just so I can tear it out without making too much of a mess. There we go. Just to start it. Yeah, I had a feeling it was going to see it's trying to tear through here. I'm sure if this wasn't cut out, that it would be much easier to just, you could probably just give it one good pull. I'll let you see the edge. You can see it's not a clean tear, but again, the paper is in there strong. It's certainly not going to come out unless you forcefully want this to be removed. It's got a good feel to it. I'm not an expert on this on paper. I don't know what the grams are or what the weight of the paper is, but it's got a nice semi-glossy feel to it. Okay. The other thing that came up was, and I did notice this, and again, it's probably I don't know if it's less pronounced or more pronounced, but I would expect less pronounced in this book because of the weakened section here, because of the cutout. If you notice here, Look at that, it already started. You can literally pull this page out. I guess from the way that it's glued in, I don't think that makes it a bad notebook or anything like that. But I know people had said that the pages will pull free after a while sometimes, and I guess it's something that would start with the back pages first. So anyways, that's the notebook. That's how it looks. It's really nice. I mean, it looks super nice. It really does. It's got a great fit and finish on it, and the paper it's good paper. I mean, it's definitely fountain pen friendly, but there are things that it will not do. So I'm going to start by doing a swab test, and I'm going to take some of the wettest and a couple of the nastier inks out there, like Baystate Blue, and some Q-tips, and I'm going to do this quickly, and I'm going to run it over, and then I haven't opened this in a couple weeks, and I'm going to let it dry on here, and I'm not going to close the book. That's why I'm going to just go away for 5 minutes and let it sit, and we'll see what happens on the back side of this paper. So again, this is some really nice dousing of Noodlers Baystate Blue. This one is the Qin Shi Haug. I think I just butchered that. That's the new red from Noodlers. I mean, it is really red, beautiful red, but it is brutally feathersome. If that makes sense. It feathers a lot. How's that? So if it doesn't feather, I'm curious to see how this holds up as far as its saturation. I mean, I love the red, but it's just it just feathers on so many papers out there, except Tomo River. The next one I didn't show you, I'm sorry, is the Noodlers X Feather. Nice deep black cap. Remember, I always say cap your ink. Alright, I'm just going to do 6 inks, and again, I'm going to run through this quick as I can. This is Noodlers, Dragon's Napalm, sorry. This is another one that's very, very vibrant, and is a wet ink, though it is a little thinner than some of the other ones. Alright, those are all the Noodlers. Let's do something people use. The Mont Blanc, this is the Jonathan Swift. It's a really nice, like, seaweedy green. A little drier ink, but has great shading to it. And the final one, I'm going to use Ackerman's, it's a blue black, which I can never pronounce these correctly, so I'm not going to bother. But this is an iron gall ink. It's going to be interesting to see how this does. And that'll be the final swab, and then I'm going to go away, and I'll be back, and we'll see how this did, and then I'm going to do a writing sample. Beautiful. I'll do writing samples with a few of the pens that are inked up. I've got a TWSBI Micarta, Delta Fusion, a TWSBI Mini, and Visconti, Homo Sapiens. These are all more of the wetter pens that I have, so it should show you pretty much how these pages will hold up when you're using it. Okay, I rambled enough. I'm sorry. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I gave it about 10 minutes to dry. The Dragon's Napalm here still has a little bit of a wet spot, as does the X Feather here and here. I'll give you a close-up to see how these inks did. First one was the Baystate Blue. You can see some feathering. Just lock the focus in. You can see some feathering in it down the line, and then when it thinned out a little bit, really no feather, and it came out. It shows up really well. The red, the Qin Shi, definitely feathered, and that was to be expected. Like I said, that is just a brute on everything I've used out there, just about, except maybe Tomo River paper. But same thing, you can see it calmed down a little bit. I decided I didn't ink a pen up yet with that one, but I will, so we'll do a writing sample with it. The X Feather, it is still damp, no feather anywhere. So That one worked out well. The napalm is still a little wet. I don't really see any feathering in this one. I'll refocus. When that's really close up, I don't see any feathering either. Again, you can see it's still damp. So it did really well. Jonathan Swift, the Noodlers, the Mont Blanc, really nice. Laid down a beautiful line. Again, I mean, this is swabbed on with a Q-tip, so this stuff was really laid in there. The Iron Gall ink from Ackerman, that blue-black, you can see in this spot right here where it's pooled a little bit, but it didn't feather. So overall, it held up, pretty good for this. Now, here's what you want to see. How did the backside do? Well, I didn't get anything on the page behind it, but the backside did have some bleed through. As you can see, the two brutes came through, the red especially. The others, not really. The only spot that really, it barely bled through a little bit was right here on the Dragon's napalm. And again, it was so wet that it still was damp. And the others, no, just shadowing in it. So, but that was really, it's just pushing the envelope, and it's really what I wanted to show. You can see here, this is still so wet that, it did go to the other side. And you can see, that's pretty much the only one. There's a tiny speck of the black from the X feather because it was a little bit damp still. Okay, so writing with a pen that's wet. I'll bring you down close. We'll get a fresh page. And this has, I gotta hold the camera, so it's going to be not neat at all today. Let me just the focus to stay. This has hopefully the pens don't dry. If these pens dry out a little bit, it's because I have a lot of light on it, so it's not them. This is Noodlers Black Swan Australian Roses, and again, I'm choosing this pen because it lays down a lot of ink, and it'll give you a good idea of how the paper will hold up on a normal basis, even with something that's wet. You'll be able to see the dry time and things like that, and how it does. Alright. Next, I do have one pen. Don't cringe, but my Delta Fusion 82. I did put Noodlers Baystate Blue in it. I generally keep that in this one because I really like the ink, and worst comes to worst, if it's really stained anything, I would just get a new feed and converter, which is cheap. Lace the ink down. You know what, on this Baystate, let it cross over and see if it comes through. TWSBI micarta, which, how do you think about it, I'm sorry, this one has the Black Swan with Australian Roses in it. This top one is the brown from Ackerman's. And this lays down a lot of ink as well. And this is just a broad nib, sorry. This is a stub, and this is a stub top, the first two. This is just a really wet broad. TWSBI Mini. This has Noodlers lithium, Liberty's lithium in it. This has got the Pendleton bad boy with wings, stub. I never reviewed this really, I just did a writing sample. It's frosted like that. This is a very cool nib. This is a lot of fun to use too. Refocus. Alright. And this one as well lays down a good amount of ink. Swirl, lay some ink on that. I'll do the same thing I did with the Baystate Blue. Give a little cross. Oops. Because that little patch right there will be pretty well saturated. Okay, so how did these do? Who feathered and who didn't? Bring you up close. Okay. Relock. And again, this way it's close. I'm sorry it's sideways, but the way the camera's mounted, it's the only way I can get this to go. Alright. Nice stub nib, very wet, you can see. No feathering. The Baystate Blue, one of the brutes of the bunch, you can see there is absolutely some feathering. Again, another stub. No feathering at all. None that I can see. Good shading you can see in the letter D. Came out nice. The Elysium, again in a stub, a Pendleton stub, which he sets them so that they run nice and juicy. No feathering whatsoever. Back of the page. Just hold this by hand. I'm sorry if it's shaking. You can see some shadowing, and the Baystate Blue definitely bled through. Absolutely, it did. There is some shadowing on the others. The only place the lithium really came through is where it got saturated in here, and in the cross point it came through. There on the other page, there's a dot here and a dot here. And remember, I had this down, so I was pressing through. And it didn't bleed through onto the other page, really. I mean, two small spots. So, bottom line is, I guess you're not going to write on the other side of the page. Anyways, it is nice paper. It is a nice notebook. I just wanted to give it a harsher test than most would. So, the construction of it is very nice, and it's a good notebook. And because it bled through on a torture test doesn't mean that it's a notebook I would shy away from. That's for sure. It did a nice job. The price point is decent, and this is also a book you can find in a lot of places. Alright. I'll tell you what, if you want to stick around for a second, I will ink up one pen, and I'll do the red Qin Shi. If you're not, and you just want to pass, that's no problem either. I wish you all a good evening. But for those who want to stick around, I'll take my Wall Eversharp and I'll give it a quick ink because it hasn't been inked. I just cleaned her out, and I will show you. This is like the worst ink, honestly, for bleed through and feathering and everything else. Again, I mean, it's a beautiful red, but you really need paper that will take this ink, like a Tomo River. Sorry. I'm just going to wipe it and start writing right away, because I know everyone's impatient, as am I. I know when I watch other people's videos, I'm like, get to the writing, get to the writing, get to the writing. Alright. I won't wipe it down perfect, but I'll get you down close. I just need to get it to focus. Pocket. I don't know how to spell it, so I'm just going to write it as Noodlers. um, but and while it doesn't look too bad here, it always seems to be in the drawing that it'll spread out on you. You know, when you give your letters flair or whatever you decide to do. And you can see this line in the Noodlers is already starting to break away. This pen is so much fun. You know, something like that. I'll just give it a second, but I can see from here that ink like this on this notebook, again, it's not fair because this ink kills everything. But this will give you an idea. I mean, this ink isn't even dried yet, and it's just all over the place. Okay, super long review. Again, thank you again for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you all a happy Fountain Pen Day, which this year is November 1st. So thank you again, and have a great Fountain Pen Day.